everyone, welcome back to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, and this is part 2 of a conversation between myself and Don, talking about big boy events and what we think of them. If you haven't listened to part 1, go ahead and listen to that first, and then come into this one.
So, obviously these things are big hookup places, right? But aside from that, do you find it's easy to meet, just meet generically platonic people there that you form long-term relationships with?
Okay, good. So, yes, very yes. I mean, obviously,
Hey.
let's think about it. I meet a whole lot more people at an event than I have sex with.
Well, one would hope. Jesus.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I'd be very curious of a scenario where that's reversed. I'd be... I think it should be filmed. Really.
I do know some chasers who who run their schedule like a train, and people get on, people get off. There are timetables and blah blah blah. These people went on to found their own event actually because they found themselves so successful they decided they need their own event, and that was also very successful.
Wow.
I give no names.
Good for them.
So yeah, good for them. But the point is that the event is many things to many people. And for some, it will be purely social. There are even some couples who go that are monogamous and don't hook up with anyone. Or maybe we'll take a third. Maybe. There are some couples, and this is their only weekend together, for which all the rules are off. It's utter pandemonium. They can hook up with as many guys as they want, because they know it's all going to come to an end on Monday morning.
That's interesting.
So, and then there are obviously a lot of singles too. I'm just saying that you can kind of run this however you want. It usually comes down to managing those social interactions, which is the tough part. I shouldn't say tough. I should say it's the part that people are usually the most afraid of. Like you said, is it going to be like the junior high dance, and I'll be the only one not dancing, or is it going to be like, oh my God, I play Uno, you play Uno, we all play Uno. Yay, let's all play Uno.
So, do you find at these events, it's usually is it chasers reaching out for chubs and chubs reaching out for chasers? Or do you, you made it sound like there were already chaser versus chub cliques in that, you just see a big group of chubs and no chasers there. And is that the case, or
it is? Well, there's your junior high dance.
So there is a junior high element here.
Oh,
okay.
No, that's why I said you're not wrong. That's why I said you are not wrong. Well, and why is that? It's not the event. It's human beings. Most human beings are still using the same sexual social software that got installed in 8th grade.
Well, I mean, a lot of us haven't had the chance to update our software
exactly
quite as often as the straight crowds or mainstream gay crowds that just are getting laid left and right everywhere they go.
Well, or sometimes it's just that if you're working behind being you're gay and you are a chub or a chaser, you're kind of already working behind two taboos, and so a lot of the times that influences our social development, and so someone who doesn't have those two taboos to deal with in life can sometimes be more social. But I'm sure we all know, a gorgeous straight person who has a lot of trouble in social situations. It's not just that.
No, that's absolutely true. The most handsome guy I know is the most socially awkward guy I know.
There you go. And he's adorable for it, isn't he?
He kind of is.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Freaking adorable bastard.
Exactly. Well, and that's something to keep in mind too, when you feel like you're, the second thumb on the hand.
Yeah.
It's helpful to know that that's okay to be, because there's actually, number one, people who find that adorable. And two, there's nothing wrong with just being you. There's nothing wrong with being that. It's a conversation you're having in your own head, and therefore it's not taking place at the event. It's taking place inside the mindscape of your head. And while you can't tell yourself to stop doing that, I think we have actually talked about this in the podcast, kind of getting out of yourself, getting out of your head. I find the most practical way is just look at the other person and ask a question, or ask yourself the question, what's important to them about that? They're talking about something, right? What's important to them? Or ask them, what do you love about that? Just so it gets you out of you looking at you and gets you invested in the other person.
That's generally not something I have an issue with, but I can see that. That's interesting.
So, Don, what are some of the things that because I'm sure people can relate. What are some of the things that either were really big surprises for you at your one event or big bad surprises?
So the one event I went to was such a weird grab bag of treatment from people there, right? Where there were a couple people who were super nice, but then sort of would vanish quickly, which is fine.
And what do you mean vanish quickly?
I remember I was having a breakfast there, right? And I was sitting at a table with like 6 other guys. It was very nice. And like 2 of them were chasers who like were being very, very pleasant to me. Let's put it that way. And then basically over the course of the meal, like every one of them caught sight of somebody and ran. So, suddenly like I literally was all of a sudden like the one person at the table, having to figure out where do I go next or going to the dance floor. Right. And, I didn't know anyone there. So I went out onto the dance floor. I'm dancing. And there are some people, like half the people would it felt like, this is what it felt like. I'm not going to say this is what happened. It felt like half the people just turned their backs to me while I was on the dance floor. And the other half of the people just started grabbing me sort of in ways I was not prepared for at that time. Like, it was just, so it felt like 2 extremes happening to me at the same time. That made it difficult for me to grapple with what was happening in the moment.
Yeah.
Does that make any kind of sense?
It completely, yeah, of course it does. And I think
like these are two experience. Like one, I am never ignored, right? I am not the kind of person who gets ignored because we will have words and I am not the person, I'm not used to being the person that's being grabbed on,
Yeah.
So it's 2 different polar opposite experience, just slamming me at the same time, and that was wildly uncomfortable.
Yeah. Boy, I have so much to say about that. What's useful? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll kind of do a menu and you click on what you think is interesting.
Nice. I'll check off the right boxes.
Okay. So
it's like a bit.
We can talk about how that experience is actually very common in all of gaydom. I haven't been to that many straight events, but I think it happens there too. So I wouldn't want you to have the impression or people to have the impression that that's a fetishistic chub chaser thing. That actually happens a lot at a gay circuit party, at other kinds of dances in the straight world. So there's that. We can talk about that if you want. The other thing is that phenomenon of like, oh my God, half these people are ignoring me and half these people want a piece of me.
Yeah.
In that sort of social context where there's sex in the air and you're at a dance, which is sort of sensual. That's not an inaccurate perception. and it's not that the half didn't want you. It's that the half were busy doing other people.
Yeah. I'm not saying that any of this was inappropriate.
Yeah.
I think what I'm looking for is just sort of like tips to cope.
Oh, okay.
Like,
well,
what do I do?
What's missing in that is what I would call intentionality. And it's, what do you want to have happen there? Because if you're kind of waiting and if you're in this posture of you're a leaf in the garden, the leaf in the garden is going to get blown wherever it gets blown.
Oh, I mean, I'll get blown wherever I get blown. That's fine.
I guess what I mean is, what do you want to have happen? Do you want to continue? Like there's a chaser who comes by and do you want to escalate that? If you're waiting for him to escalate that, I've had this experience so many times. I'm attracted to a guy, but I'm getting nothing back. I'm getting neutrality back. And I can't tell if he's shy or if I'm bothering him. Mm-hmm. And you guys know me. I'm a pretty,
You're a subtle wallflower. I know.
Yeah. I won't say aggressive, but I'll say I'm not afraid to speak into a space. So I can actually check on that. Like I have the balls to actually go, am I bothering you? Are you interested in me? Can we have, I'm like, and I always make it clear, like I'm a big boy. I can handle hearing no. Mm-hmm. And no would be, because I certainly don't want to bother you. And usually, there are some people who cannot say the word no. Yeah. Like you invite them to a party and they say, I'll try.
And the RSVP maybe.
Yeah, the RSVP maybe. So sometimes you have to like, no, seriously, tell me no. I mean, or you have a conversation about, and when they say no, you don't just bolt. You have a conversation about something else. Like you don't just, hang up the phone. But anyway, an intentionality there of like, well, what do you want to have happen? Because you're allowed to ask for it and you're allowed to pursue it. What I think happens with you, perhaps, Don, is, I mean, you're not shy about asking for what you want. I think in your case, maybe you don't know what you want.
I think that's fair. Well, especially in a strange situation like this. The only other conventions I ever go to are fandom conventions and work conventions. Mm-hmm. So it's a different social code. So not knowing what's going on, I always feel like I'm sort of feeling out what's available. Like I don't know what's on the menu for most of these things. So, I mean, I make assumptions, but.
Well, I'm just suggesting that you can actually have the conversation. Is this on the menu? Because I'd like it to be.
That's interesting.
And obviously you have to have your own sort of, your own security in that. Like if you can't, I always say to people, don't ask a question you don't want to know the answer to. So if the question is, are you interested in me? There's three possibilities there. Yes, no, and maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so as long as you're cool with the no, it's fair to ask the question. Mm-hmm. What happens a lot of times, though, is people are not comfortable with no. They start to make all sorts of judgments about themselves, or it's the third no they got today, and therefore they're unlovable, and they go down this whole gravy train of depression.
Yeah, okay, I could see that. Yeah, I did notice, like, when I left that convention, like, people seemed very happy or very sort of like glued to the wall.
Yeah, it is like that. It is like that sometimes because people have very, very different experiences just because they're different people.
Yeah. I have a tendency to be the person who wants to approach the person on the wall anyway. I think that's sort of my natural inclination is like, if there's someone who's looking awkward at a party, I want to be next to them, making them less awkward.
And that's wonderful. And you know what? You can be the friend of half the people there just doing that.
That's nice.
And, and given that there could be 100 guys there and you're friends with 50 of them and you have sex with 2 of them, that's going to be a great weekend.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, okay. So here's the most grade school question, the grade school dance question I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
What do I wear?
Oh, perfect. Oh my God. Oh, perfect. No, I love that question. Because I would be lying if I didn't admit that I am vain enough to think about that a lot. Mm-hmm. I have my personal strategy.
Well, I mean, so honestly, I'm assuming you want to sort of dress for the encounters you want, right? So like my everyday clothes are very casual, very comfy. And I admit I wear a lot of flannel, which I probably wouldn't do in New Orleans if I go to this to the New Orleans event. But like, am I right that like if do I dress sexy for this? Do I
would
dress
say
comfy?
This. I would say, number one, you can't feel sexy if you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
like they're opposites. So you can't just, okay, I'm going to buy the skimpiest things I can and just hope for the best. If you're not comfortable, no one's comfortable. So yes, you should dress quote unquote sexy, but what does that mean for you? Probably less flannel, probably, I would say like here would be a daring piece of advice for perhaps you but definitely a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So a lot of chubs have a strategy of t-shirt plus overshirt.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I am wearing right now.
Exactly. So what if you just left the overshirt in the hotel room? You went out without it. Now, believe me, it's New Orleans. You're going to probably ditch the overshirt pretty quick anyway, if you're out and about in the town. But some people just wearing only one shirt is tantamount to feeling naked for them.
Yeah, sure.
And I would also say that I would do it not even so much like, will it attract more chasers? Yeah, probably. But that's not even the best reason to do it. The best reason to do it is just so you get to have a choice. And sometimes, you try it. You're going to have a reaction to it. It's not going to feel natural because you've spent years not doing it. Mm-hmm. But I think it's fun to give you can't, you don't have a legitimate choice as a human being if one of the options is impossible.
Well, I mean, to me, it sounds like a really good opportunity to just sort of experiment with the clothes I wish I wore, but
Yeah.
always felt uncomfortable with, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could see that. But I don't know what that is. I'll have to think about that.
Well, that's the fun part. You really, because I mean, nobody cares if you change your clothes 5 times a day. I mean, you know, you got a pack for that, but but really, you could have 5 different outfits and just you could play, you know, dress up Barbie all day long. if that's what you want to spend your time doing, and that's fine. I know a lot of chubs and chasers that have, you know, different. Okay, this is what I'm going to wear on our walkabout in New Orleans, or you know, the excursion. You know, you're going to wear comfortable shoes, sensible socks, shorts, and whatever you wear on top, right? But now we're going into the pool party. Well, you're probably not going to wear the same thing to the pool party. Or maybe you just want to hang out in the hospitality suite. You know, maybe you changed, maybe you didn't. And then there's that dinner at night if you signed up for that. Like, what do you want to wear to that? Do you want to get all dressed up? Because nothing looks hotter to me than a well-dressed chub. Or are you like, I've been out all day. I am tired. I'm just going to wear a tank top and shorts.
That's fun.
But, you know, I guess the idea is the whole point of these events, the whole point is that it is a place where gay is normal and fat is sexy. Take advantage of that environment. Dress for that environment.
Nice. I will admit it's still scary. I'm still rolling it over in my head, but I am definitely interested after our conversation. So,
Very cool.
What do you think, listeners? Should I go to one of these events? I'm looking at one at Palm Springs. I'm looking at one in New Orleans. Let me know what you think. Are you going? Let us know. Thanks for listening to us. We're going to be back sometime early June. Looking forward to getting another full person podcast for you, and maybe even some podcasts where we all record in the same room again. What a concept. So maybe you're listening to your podcast and you hear Dan's voice behind you, and you turn around and there he is standing with a tank top held out, presented to you. And he says,
Look out.